Welcome, Magnus here.
Hey, are you filming? Hey man, I thought you said I was gonna be in one of your episodes.
Yeah, you were in the last episode, and I'll put you in this one. I'll find a way.
Well, all right then.
Okay. Anyway, welcome to this episode, and I wanted to talk about a couple things on the 1DX Mark III. But first, if you like this type of camera talk, reviews, tech, just hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and then hit all so that you don't miss any one of my uploads. And this is the episode where I talk about a couple things with the 1DX Mark III versus the 5D Mark IV. First, I want to talk about the low light performance of both cameras, and then actually talk about the picture taking abilities and how I react when I'm used to using the 5D Mark IV, but putting this bad boy in my hands and then switching to the 5D Mark IV and what that was like. So to get started, I've got a couple of shots that I'm going to show you right now. Now these shots are comparing the 5D Mark IV versus the 1DX Mark III. In this very studio, I was just pointing it at a microphone and just switching the ISO settings and then seeing the comparison or at least how they act in each setting. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that I had the 5D Mark IV and the 1DX Mark III in 4K mode, but that causes the 5D Mark IV to be cropped in while the 1DX Mark III was not cropped in. However, I'm just comparing this mode with these settings and the difference. And what you can find in most of these shots, and it's pretty easy to see, that the 1DX Mark III does a much better job in each of the ISO levels to capture more light. And then of course the 1DX Mark III can go even higher levels than the 5D Mark IV. However, the 5D Mark IV's performance is still not bad for a camera that's pretty much almost 4 years old at this point. So then I took the cameras out pretty much to a view of New York City. Now there was a Norwegian cruise line actually docked in New York City at the time. And unfortunately, since we're all really should be staying indoors and away from anything, I didn't want to get near people or near anything. I stayed in a park and took those shots and then went straight home. Washed my hands and stayed clean. All I wanted to do was take a couple of pictures outside, but unfortunately there were some people out there, which I took a picture of them. But check out the comments and what I had to say. So I decided to go outside in this pretty nice weather, and I brought the 5D Mark IV, which I'm recording on right now. Hi. And the 1DX Mark III. I got a 70-300 f4 to 5.6 lens. I'm actually by the Hudson River looking at the view of New York City, and I want to see if I can get just a few pictures with this, see how quick it is, how quick I can pick up focus. There are a couple of nice scenes outside, and I'm going to show you what they look like coming up right here. Now, one of the things that I'm noticing is that when using this camera, I'm able to lock on to autofocus pretty much right away, and the picture is so fast. Now, I've got the shutter speed set to 1/640th, so it's got to be fast. But at the same time, locking on to focus is pretty quick. Once I've got it locked on, it just moves. Even with this older lens, it moves so quickly. I could just boom, boom, boom. I mean, I guess that's what it's got to be about. But also, I could just move focus points with the AF on button. However, I'm not used to this camera hitting this button and then moving my thumb over for the AF on button to just move the focusing point really quickly. I mean, it's really responsive, but I'm not used to using it. But as far as pictures go, it's not doing a bad job. Now I'm going to switch over to 5D Mark IV and try these same shots and see if it actually feels comfortable or if I'm having trouble with the 5D Mark IV. Same lens, similar settings. Let's go.
All right, when using the 5D, it's a little bit different because the 5D itself, I've been using for so long, but right when I went from the 1DX Mark III to the 5D, I'm like, oh, this is different. It's a lot lighter, so it's at least, I would get less fatigued using this camera. And I can tell you that while setting up shots, I feel that it's a tad slower. I'm taking a few shots right now of like the boat zoomed all the way in, boom, took the shot. But it feels like the shutter is, even though I've got it at 1/640th or 1/400th, it isn't as snappy and as quick as a 1DX Mark III, and it shouldn't be because a 1DX Mark III is meant for sports, and of course it's going to be faster, but also it just feels that much faster. And even though I was complaining a little bit about like not being used to the focus points moving, the fact that there are so many focus points when using the mirror. I didn't use the 1DX Mark III as a mirrorless, in the mirrorless form when you're doing live view. And live view performance on the 1DX Mark III versus the 5D Mark IV is no contest. 1DX takes it because when you're using live view, it is unbelievably slow on the 5D Mark IV. The whole point is, if you could do it with this camera, do you really need that camera? Sports? Yeah. Regular? Probably not. But I don't know. Let's see what it came out to. Back to the studio. See ya.
Now here we are back in the studio, and I reviewed some of the pictures that I took, and I can honestly tell you that, first of all, one thing I want to clarify is that the 1DX Mark III takes 20 megapixel pictures, while the 5D Mark IV takes 31 megapixel pictures. Now, that would mean that the higher resolution is going to give you more sharper pictures, right? Well, I didn't see it that way. Now take a look at this Norwegian cruise line. I made sure to stand in the same place. I zoomed in on the ships as much as possible that I could with my lens, so 300 millimeters all the way zoomed in. If you compare both shots, it's hard to see a detailed difference between the two. Yes, the 5D Mark IV is still high resolution, but that doesn't necessarily mean you get more detail, especially with it depending on the lens that you're using. But what that means to me is a couple of things, twofold. 1DX Mark III does a great job with the detail that it does capture off of its 20 megapixel sensor. But also, the 5D Mark IV, when it came to the shot that I took, was comparable. Meaning that you can take a similar looking photo with the 5D Mark IV as you can with the 1DX Mark III, which to me means that you'll be just fine with the 5D Mark IV if you don't get the 1DX Mark III. But on the flip side, when it actually came to taking shots, it was just so much more responsive, both in live view and taking pictures through the viewfinder. This is a camera I can honestly say I was honored to use for a couple of days. Thank you, Canon, for letting me borrow this. This is an amazing camera. I had a heck of a time, and it's a difficult time, but heck, I'm indoors and I can just use this all day if I want and use it for what I can. But this camera was honestly fun to use. I'm going to miss it. I've got to send it back. Now, when I got this camera, I wiped it down completely. And when I send it back, I'm going to wipe it down, make sure it's completely disinfected. Yes, I'm putting my hands on it, but my hands are washed. I washed my hands before and after use. And I'll make sure this is absolutely clean before sending it back because I want to make sure everything's okay. But all in all, it was a great experience with this great camera, and that's what I got to say. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Do you think that this camera is something that you're interested in versus the 5D Mark IV? Would you stick to the 5D Mark IV? As always, let me know in the comments down below, and you can like, share, and always make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. Goodbye. See ya. I hope he won't miss this.